Hello, it's me, the Sigma. This Dan guy has a sore throat, so he asked me to do the intro for him, and since I'm the Sigma, I thought why not? I love helping other Sigmas after all. I'm back after another month of complete absence just to upload this one video and disappear again for another month. Dan's exams are starting soon, so today we're inside of Silent Abyss. Actually, there's no certain area that this video is linked to, because today I'll be covering the best and worst tower of each difficulty inside of JToH. Pretty generic idea, I know, but unironically, even though it's so simple, no one has really revisited this topic ever since Wolfzai invented that idea in his videos almost 3 years ago. Anyway, it's time to see what those best and worst towers are. Disclaimer. Before this video actually starts, I have two things to say for you to keep in mind. This whole video is not objective and is purely based on my personal opinion. So for example, if I like TOC more than an objectively good Insane, I'd put TOC as the best. This video script was made prior to the release of Ashen Tower Works and the confirmation of the Zone 9 towers, which means that none of the towers from these two areas were considered while selecting the best and worst towers. That's everything for the disclaimer. Now actually moving on to the main part of the video.
So here we are beginning with the worst easy tower. Honestly, looking on the list of all the easy towers we have in the game so far made me realize that none of them are necessarily bad, but since I had to choose one, the most obvious option was Tower of Funny Thoughts. Again, while not being actually that bad, is there anything inside of this tower that actually lets it compete with other easies? Exactly, there's not. And the best easy tower ends up being the most recent one. How surprising, isn't it? What should I even say about this tower? It's just extremely good. I always loved Gemeter's gameplay and how it usually turns out, and so did I in this tower. Decently creative, extremely easy to sight read, and very speedrun friendly. Just a perfect easy tower in my opinion. Oh god, we are back to this one. I feel like I've already described this tower well enough in the Forgettable Towers video by calling it a tower that's just there to be there and nothing else. It was actually a somewhat competitive place, considering it was a pretty close one between this and Tower of Nice Use. But with the latter, there was at least some kind of effort put into the designing, so yeah. So, another Gamma Tower, another best tower of the difficulty. This tower is just the perfect example of the Gemeter's gameplay. It's very similar to Tower of Zero Disturbances, but slightly less creative and a bit harder. This tower was such a good addition to the game, as it actually prepares players for the hard difficulty with its tightropes and even a final stage. Also, I'm pretty sure that this, just like Tower of Zero Disturbances, is the latest tower of its difficulty to be added into the game, so that's kinda funny. Oh my god, is there even a point in saying anything about this one? I feel like only hearing this song in the background already made you feel some sort of PTSD. This tower is just a fucking piece of bullshit, and there's no way you can disagree. Firstly, you do some NPC cylinder gameplay, then skip literally most of the tower because not a single sane person will go through all of that shit. Then you go to the middle floors, which are just, not much better to say the least. They're still fucking horrible. And then the last floors... No, I can't talk about this shit anymore. No, get me out of here. Moving on. Oh jeez, talking about this masterpiece of a tower right after one of the worst ones in the entire game is such a pleasure. Even though I haven't played this tower in years and don't remember it that well, it's pretty clear that it still sits at the top of the hard difficulty in terms of overall quality. In this category, I was choosing between this and the Tower of Sweet Victory, and while Zone 7's tower is cool and all, I just have to admit that the Tower of Up is Down is much better. The fact that Zone 4 has towers that are so unique that they can easily compete with modern towers in terms of quality still amazes me to this day. Can you guess how many difficulties from now on will have their worst tower inside of Ring 6? This tower is just a straight up joke to me. Atrocious design, very confusing route of progression, literally a maze that constantly damages you, and everyone's favorite. One and only, the fucking space part that is literally the biggest cancer imaginable. Honestly, I could crap talk this tower for much longer, but we still have a lot of difficulties to go through, so let's just move on while in the background you can see me landing the moon jump. You probably were expecting to see Tower of Rock climbing here, and originally I've almost chosen exactly that actually. But then I remembered that Silent Abyss and especially this tower both exist, and I just instantly changed my mind. I still remember playing this tower when the subrealm just came out, and it was one of the rare cases when I was genuinely shocked by a freaking Lego tower inside of a Roblox game. At some points of this tower, I just had to question myself if I am even still playing JToH at this point. The way how this tower goes from that small section that reminds you of something like Ultimately Terrifying's Floor 9 to this gigantic hall with 3 floors is just insane. Not much else to say really. This tower just thrives in every imaginable aspect, making it the best difficult tower in the game so far. And here we have another tower that doesn't really need any explanations. Like, what in the actual fuck am I even looking at right now? I honestly refuse to believe that this tower wasn't made as a joke, because if it actually wasn't, then this is just very sad. There's not a single good thing about this tower, and it just rather seems like that every floor is trying to mock up classic towers in its own way. Floor 1, Button Hunt floors. 2, Tower of Rage. 3 and 4, spammy gameplay. 5, Tower of Inception combined with difficulty spikes? I don't even know at this point. 6, Speedrun. Yay! 7 and 8, GBJs. 9, what in the actual fuck? 10, if it has a net, it has to be a trillion times harder than the rest of the tower. Oh god, let's just believe that this tower was made as a joke and move on, please. Going back to the juicy stuff, when Tower of Inner and Outer Scalings and Tower of Insult to Injuries replacements got first announced, I wasn't expecting much from them. And while Tower of Lost in Sections did not end up being anything special, oh boy, COVF was such an improvement from what it has replaced. Voluminous Framework, in my opinion, is one of the best towers in the game and can easily compete with towers from the recent areas in terms of overall quality. It has very awesome gameplay, very unique lighting that makes it really stand out, the Creo music, and the very unique usage of gigantic spaces for the gameplay.
Which is very similar to the way one other tower does that, which we'll get to a bit later.
I was never a fan of Tower of Insult to Injury, but I definitely am a fan of this tower. So we still haven't left Ring 6, huh? There's no way you can tell me that this tower isn't the worst intense or even the worst tower in the entire game actually. It's just impossible to put it towards how bad this tower is. Absolutely atrocious gameplay, sudden floor long difficulty spikes, brain rotting puzzles, and the gameplay of level good luck state reading the shit button. You can't even call this a joke, a tower unlike TOTI. It feels like this tower was made with the sole purpose of being torture for those idiots that would dare to play. Even though this entire game was originally about being a torture for players, you still get what I mean, right? It's been 2 years since its initial release. A lot of new intenses got added since that time, spiking up that number up to a whopping 58 towers in total, yet I still believe that Cowhead is one of the greatest things to be ever made for this game. And it isn't even necessarily because of it being very creative nor unique. It is actually because of my memories that I have from playing it for the very first time. I still remember playing this on its release day, trying to sideread this entire behemoth while not even being a RAM skill level at the time, breezing through some floors but getting stuck on others. Even hearing this song that you can hear in the background right now gives me goosebumps because I instantly remember the moment when I reached floor 11 and heard this song for the first time. Being on the final floor with 3 hours long run, extremely exhausted, just hoping to be able to finish this off before the new year would come. Call this extremely based on my nostalgia, but you just have to admit that playing Cowhead for the very first time is one of its kind experience. Originally, I had no doubt that I'm going to choose TOCN for this one, since it's literally Tower of True Skill, Killbreak Edition, but fucking worse! However, that's not the case anymore, since I've managed to find something that's even worse, which is this tower. I'm gonna try to keep myself calm while talking about this one. But this tower is the single worst thing I have ever played. There is no fucking single part of this piece of shit that I could genuinely call enjoyable. It just varies between absolute shit and somewhat bearable shit. The amount of absolutely idiotic sections this tower has to offer that I'm showing you on the background right now is just absurd. It literally still is ongoing. I'll just let the rest of this slideshow of absolute garbage play out for someone else. We've still got a lot of towers to cover. Making a decision about the best Remorseless tower was by far the hardest, due to how many awesome towers this difficulty actually has, which is the exact reason why I just couldn't end up choosing one. So because of that, I'm going to tell you a bit about 3 different towers that equally deserve being considered the best one of their difficulty. First one being Citadel of a Cruel Tale. The Citadel by itself is just one heck of an adventure that you'll probably remember for quite some time. It just really is that good. Its design is just insane, plus the atmosphere completely changing a few times throughout the Citadel makes it never feel repetitive. And of course, the nice and creative gameplay is also there. It just actually is insane to me how the Citadel is a solo built thing, by the way. Like, just wow, huge and honest respect to Darklisk from me, bro surely knows how to cook well. For the second tower that deserves the title of the best Rem, I have chosen Totasm. What do I even have to say about this tower? It's absolutely phenomenal. Remember how in the past people were saying that Tony was ahead of its time? Well, I genuinely believe that this tower is ahead of our time too. The amount of new mechanics and old ones from toss-ups that were used in this tower is just insane. In terms of just pure gameplay aspect, this tower will probably stay as the most creative one in the game for quite a while, only to be beaten by the last tower of the trilogy probably. The way how Nanity managed to jump from this garbage to this masterpiece is just crazy to me. Now that's what I call a good sequel to a tower. And the final worthy Remorseless on this list is Tower of No Return. This tower is just something else. It's absolutely phenomenal how this tower is so simple yet has its extremely enjoyable and creative gameplay, which goes literally all over the place on some gigantic scales. The atmosphere here goes from being pretty chill on 1 through 4, to that adventurous feeling on 5, to the infamous floors 6 and 9 which can make even Kata skill level players stressed, to floor 10 with the final stage, which really do feel like a victory lap, but not a completely safe one. I was actually beating this tower on Zone 8's release by sight reading, and it was also my very first time seeing Zach Ru's gameplay style. That was one heck of an adventure that I definitely won't forget in a while. Wait, no, stop right there. This is not the worst insane tower in the game, believe me or not. Just because all of you brainwashed, hive-minded people that believe this tower is the absolute worst thing in existence because everyone else says so, doesn't mean that I have to think the same way. I even find this tower somewhat fun to play, actually. Here, let me show you the actual worst insane tower. Follow me. When I was grinding this tower, of course I wasn't expecting much from it, considering what it is. What I definitely was not expecting, this tower actually turning out to be worse than fucking confusion. I literally cannot speak about this tower without barely being able to hold my urge to absolutely explode in it. Hear that Doom soundtrack in the background? That's literally my ass right now being on fire because I'm talking about this tower. Much like Zest Plus, this tower has nothing good about itself. The gameplay is just atrocious and to the brim filled with either ziplines that will fling you with like 70% success rate, stupid conveyors that in this tower are literally impossible to get consistent at, and sitters which are just used terribly. Literally all of this tower is RAM, but then you get to the last 2 floors and see jumps like that. What in the actual fuck even is that? The only thing that makes this tower somewhat tolerable to play through is the fact that it's soul crushing. If it would still stay at the Remorseless difficulty, literally nobody would play it, which is most likely the only reason it got moved to insane in the first place. For all that time since beating Tower of Cruel Descent, I thought that nothing could ever possibly top it and become my new favorite insane, but that was until I stumbled upon this tower. Tower of Polychromatic Zero is genuinely one of the best towers that I have ever played so far. The gameplay is extremely enjoyable and creativity with design are also there. The concept of 2 colors split in half frame is so simple, yet just works extremely well. Not to mention how awesome the soundtrack of this tower actually is. Playing through it just felt amazing, especially the moments you get that sweet button progress on floors 5 and 8. This is just an all-around solid tower that barely has anything bad to be mentioned about it. For the To the surprise of the most people who were very likely expecting to see strategic mechanics here, I actually do find that tower to be overrated and much better than what I'm standing in front of right now. And no, I did not choose this tower because of one particular human being that literally cannot stop talking about this tower anywhere they possibly can, and at this point could probably just straight up marry this tower just to change its surname from extreme to insane. First things first, this is an RA plus DN tower, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about the creators themselves, but most of their older towers usually tend to have really questionable gameplay sometimes, especially this very tower. The gameplay in here is just very scuffed and annoying to go through, which makes this tower quite the pain in the ass to grind. Not even mentioning the atmospheric lighting of this tower, which literally makes it unplayable for some people. While it's very far from being the worst thing in existence, plus its design actually being exceptionally good for its time, this tower can only really compete with strategic mechanics, which I again believe to actually be better than this one. The good old Tower of the Dripping Amalgam. It's been almost 2 years since this tower came out, with lots of new extremes and just any other difficulty towers added into the game. Yet this tower still is my favorite one in the entire game, and definitely is the best extreme in my opinion. It's pretty good from the creativity aspect, but when it comes to the gameplay with design and atmosphere, that's where this tower really shines. The gameplay of this tower is just the best example of what happens when you can perfectly balance the amount of junk and regular gameplay inside of your tower. It constantly switches between both types, which makes the gameplay never feel repetitive nor boring. Not even mentioning how satisfying it is to actually do the jumps for this tower for some reason. And the design with atmosphere are on the whole other level. This tower's intimidating design with the single greatest music selection on top of that creates one-of-a-kind atmosphere which you just have to experience by yourself in order to understand. This tower is the definition of a perfect extreme. Consistent difficulty, awesome gameplay, good creativity, and very atmospheric design with music choices. If you're looking for a second or third extreme to beat, I'd highly recommend you checking this one out. Okay, I swear, I'm not trying to defend Itnir, but just as with the confusion, y'all brainwashed brats just say that this tower is the worst thing in existence without even touching its portal a single time, just because everyone else says so. I actually have beaten that tower, and I do believe that it's overhated and can be somewhat fun to grind. With that out of the way, let's move to the actual worst terrifying in this game. Not even impossible movement? What's actually wrong with you is probably what you're thinking of right now. But that tower, in my opinion, is actually kinda fun too once you get past floor 3 and maybe skip abuse a little. JToH, on the other hand, is the single most atrocious thing I have ever played. Not only it is a sequel to an already pretty questionable tower, it's fucking worse! The 1 through 6 in this tower are literally remorseless difficulty and only exist just to make you go insane by having to go through them every time once you fall from the actual hard floors. And what those hard floors, aka 7 through 10, get their difficulty from? What in the actual fuck is that? Literally all of this tower's difficulty comes from the very few sections that are difficulty spikes, and the rest is just annoying as thin studs, long jumps and etc. There's literally nothing good about this tower, and if you actually beat it without skip abusing, which is what an actual sane human would do by the way, meet the doctor as soon as possible, please. There is always a constant fight going inside of my mind whether this or Alien Radiance is the best terrifying in the game, but looking on the both towers overall, I just have to admit that micromanagement is much better. The concept of this tower and its execution alone already make this tower stand out from anything else. This tower does actually start pretty rough, with floors 1 through 3 being the worst thing ever created by the mankind, however the rest of it is actually very fun. You even get the small safety net ever created on floor 6 to increase the enjoyment factor, even though there are places where you can fall out of it completely. This tower for sure is not the greatest thing ever created, but considering what all other 6 terrifieds are, this is definitely the best one. Getting that straight out of the way, I literally have no experience with any of the Catastrophic towers at the moment, so take everything I say further with a very big grain of salt. There are only 6 Catastrophic towers in the game at the moment, and it's very easy to define the best and the worst one for this difficulty. I feel like almost everyone will agree with me saying that this is the worst one. Tower Elongated Runs is extremely long, punishing, repetitive, and uses insta-kills in very nasty ways, that pretty much any fail past floor 8, I believe that's the floor, can easily get you caught on an insta and boom, your precious 40 plus minutes run is over. Again, due to lack of personal experience, I can't really say much about this tower. So let's actually move on to the final section of this video, the best Catastrophic tower. Surprise, surprise! It's JToH. How unexpected. There literally can't be a single doubt about this tower being the best Catastrophic, since it outshines all the other ones in every aspect imaginable. All the way from the gameplay up to the amount of parts used for the design, that could as well be used to make an entire new area lobby. Also, this tower is one of the shortest ones in the entire game, being possible to be completed in under 6 minutes, I believe, which also makes it much more enjoyable than other 5 Catastrophics, one run on which can very easily take you multiple hours.